Hey everyone, so today we'll be teaching you how to change your transmission fluid on the Ford Maverick with the Ecoboost. So the tools you will need: manual ratchet, or alternatively speaking, an electric ratchet, a 7mm socket, 10mm hex bit, T30 Torx bit, at least a 10-inch extension for your ratchet, a pry tool or a flathead screwdriver, jack and jack stands for, of course, safety measures. This puck will be optional to save your pinch welds. We will also need a funnel and, of course, fluid. So there's several options available between Motorcraft, AMSOIL, or whatever fluid you are comfortable with using. Just make sure it's a ULV fluid, which stands for an ultra low viscosity. So any automatic transmission fluid that has ULV will now work. And as far as quantity, this actually varies quite a bit, but at most you should need 5 quarts.
Okay, so starting from the engine bay, you guys can definitely tell that right down in there where we can see that little orange arrow, that is where our fill plug is for the transmission. Well, there's a few problems. A, it's not able to be accessed because, well, let's zoom in here. We can definitely tell that right above there, if this will focus, is the airbox grommets. Yeah, that's a problem. So what has to happen is essentially we're gonna remove this airbox right here. And it's actually a lot more simple than you might think, so don't worry too much. You guys can definitely do it if you have no experience or a lot of experience. So first things first, obviously, let's take out the plug. So here's a I think it's a mass airflow sensor, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, take that out. Next thing to do is remove this bolt, which is actually a 7. So here we go, right here. Let's loosen this up. And that should be good. Okay, let's put this to the side. Next up is we have one right there, one clip, and another clip. So it looks like this right here, these clips. And by the way, you're not gonna have this on your Maverick probably. This is just a mod for, well, I have the fog lights and I have this light right here. So ignore that stuff. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. We'll have to get a screwdriver to get this out as well, so we'll pop this up with a screwdriver. 1 second. Okay, so I actually end up having a pry tool, which is like obviously way better, so let's do that. We'll just, where am I at? We'll get underneath here, and we will just pry that up, and there you go. So that's that right there. I believe there's one more right here. Okay, that came off really easy. So just get this out of the way, set it to the side. Obviously don't get it dirty and don't break that. Okay, so now this is all loose, and the next thing to do is essentially just take the airbox off and, you know, get it loose from here. You might have to take off this with it, but if so, again, very simple to do, just a few clips. But let's just try without it. Okay, so let's just get this loose. Alrighty, so there's that. Let's get this off. There we go. So this just pops up. That would be a great time, by the way, to check your air filter, so we'll also check that. As you guys can definitely tell, my mods are getting in the way. Okay, 1 second, my friends. Okay, so it does appear that after you get your filter out, which, by the way, just set it to the side, a little bit dirty. Maybe I'll clean it. Obviously, just vacuum this up after as well, but now here we are. So the problem is, this is still attached, so we'll have to pop this off, and all it is just literally just these clips. So just take a pry tool or a screwdriver, pop up one, let's see. And we have one right there. So it looks like just 2 clips, honestly. So let's just do that really quickly. Set this to the side. Alrighty, let's try to get underneath here. Pop it up. Boom. There's one. Don't want to lose that. Okay, so one set to the side. We got another one. Oops, on the side. Okay, so once again, we have 1 and 2. So once this is all nice and loose, next thing you guys gotta do is go into these corners over here, and we have these grommets right here. If it'll focus on that instead, thank you. This grommet, so just pop it up. So there's 1, just kind of feel around. 2, and we might have 1 back here. Yep, okay. Okay, so let's pop this out as well. Our little intake, which is just very cheap plastic. And we have this. Okay. Are we still attached down here somewhere? Nope. Okay, we are good. Okay, so let's take this out. And now our whole airbox system is out, which might seem scary to a lot of people, but now is a great way to, you know, clean it out and do all that great stuff. So don't worry, very easy to put back. But as you guys can definitely tell, we now have access to Oh, yeah, by the way, do not lose these grommets. If you guys lose these, not a good idea. So just place that right back where it goes. That is where the air box sits to it doesn't rattle. So push it back in there nice. 2 and 3. So right here is where it is. So yes, still a very annoying spot, but that is where it is. So to remove the cap, you quite literally just pull up on it. And there we go. Okay, so pull the cap straight off, and this is a vented cap, so it's going to be very dirty as fluid will, well, eventually vent out. So don't worry too much about that. But there it is, and that is how to fill it up. For those asking if you guys can go around this in some way, you know, behind here or something like that, honestly, probably not. It's really, really difficult. I've tried numerous things, and it just is impossible nearly. And even still, you guys can probably tell it's going to be hard, but luckily this does flex, so just flex it over and put it down in there. Really, that is that simple. So now is the fun part. Now we can jack up the vehicle and essentially just drain it out and fill it up. That's pretty much it, guys. So let's get to it. Okay, so now we'll go on the driver's side and now jack up the vehicle to get ready to take off the splash shield and obviously drain the fluid. So in case you guys have one of these handy dandy universal slotted jack pads, this will save your pinch welds, trust me. About $15 on Amazon, link in bio. With that being said, all you guys gotta do to jack it up in case you've never done it before is simply take this little guy and put it right where this arrow is. So let's see if you guys can see it from there. Yep, arrow right there. So this arrow, so we are going to take that and bam, right in the middle of it. Okay. All right. So that is where we'll be jacking up the vehicle. And once again, this little slotted area is just keeps it so this pinch weld does not get bent on this pad. But in case you guys don't have that, essentially just put the pad right on the pinch weld. So let's jack up. Okay, so once we are jacked up, for safety measures, we are obviously going to use a jack stand. So let's take the safety out. Alrighty, that right there. And we are going to put it right underneath the pinch weld just in case. Better safe than sorry. Okay, so this is how to jack up the vehicle. You guys can probably tell it's now off the ground and we are double safe. So if this ever fails, we have the jack stand to save our life. Definitely need that. Okay, so now it's time to take off the splash shield to drain the fluid. And all you guys gotta do is use a T30 Torx bit and on a manual or of course an electric ratchet and remove all the bolts. There's about give or take 12 or so. But yeah, I'll show you guys what it looks like. So right here on the felt is what you guys want to remove. So not that one, but rather these. So anything that is attached to this felt, make sure you guys remove. So bam, bam, and so on and so forth, all the way down until about halfway of the vehicle. Once again, do not remove these. This is not necessary. This is only for the bumper. So just remove those and you'll be golden. Okay, so now we have all 15 of these T30 Torx screws out. You guys can definitely tell that the splash shield's right there. And now we have the exposed underbelly where you'll now have access to your oil filter, the PTU, now as well, obviously the transmission. Okay, so to locate your transmission plug, it'll be right here, right smack in the middle. Not to be confused with the PTU, which has this blue on here, and your oil, which is right here. Your oil filter's right here, which really enough, I just replaced my oil change. It kind of looks like it's leaking. I don't know. We'll check that out later. But pretty sure it's right here, and along with that, the drain, or actually I should say the fill, is located up right there. If we can, there we go. The fill's right there, so we have to take the wheel off to actually access that with the extension. But let's drain it out. Okay, so it turns out that it's actually a 14 socket, so definitely use a manual one. You're not going to want to use automatic on any sort of oil pan, transmission pan, or anything like that. You can definitely strip it out. So let's get this on here like so. Sorry, it's hard to record and do this. Okay, and we'll break it loose. You guys can definitely tell it's very loose. Okay, let's get that loose. Make sure our pan is below it. And there we go. So you guys can definitely tell, pretty healthy looking fluid. I only have 13,000 miles, but it was recommended to do it early as kind of a break-in fluid type thing. I don't know if I believe in that, but honestly, it doesn't hurt. So you guys can definitely tell quite a bit of fluid in there. So let that drain out. The best option right now is to actually lower the vehicle, put it back on its wheels, so that way every bit of fluid can get out of there. All right, guys, so it's been about, honestly, just a few minutes, but now you guys can definitely tell it is now ready to put back in because it is now just simply dripping. So take that same bolt you guys took out and make sure you guys definitely clean it off. Obviously give it an inspection, make sure it's got a good seal on it, which it definitely does. It's brand new. And let's put this back in. Snug her up by hand. Alright, by my hands. And give her a quick wipe. Now guys, this was not tight from factory, so be very gentle. Alright, so that's about it, guys. So don't over tighten this, obviously, just a little bit. From factory, it is not that tight, so just a little bit of quarter turnover tight. That is about it. Okay guys, so what I did is use the funnel and I transferred the fluid into these gallon containers of old water. And that is because I wanted to see exactly how much fluid I took out so I can put the exact amount back in, if not just a tiny bit more. So this is 1 gallon, aka 4 quarts, so a little over 4 quarts, and we got like, I don't know, I don't know even what to call that, a little amount, but yes. Obviously water bottles probably aren't filled that much, maybe to this line, so give or take like 4.1 quarts or so, but I bought 5. So I might use a little bit extra to kind of flush it through. I don't know quite yet. I might overfill it, and then of course, obviously through the leveling thing, it'll push out some more fluid and stuff like that, so whatever it may be, just try to match the same amount of quantity of fluid back into the transmission. So let's do that. Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit difficult to show this with one hand, so I might have to use 2 hands as I don't want it to drip. Obviously I had to use this for the old fluid, so it's still kind of drippy. And you don't want to get all over the engine bay, obviously. So goes directly into that little hole right below the air grommet, or whatever, air box grommet, that's what you call it. So yeah, right into that black little hole. It can move, so don't worry about that. It flexes, so just get it in there. All right, my friends, so we are now in the hole. Yes, in the hole. So the transmission can now be filled up with a little over 4 quarts. So let's go on and do that with our AMSOIL ATF fluid. Okay, so here's one. Already opened one to flush, you know, a little bit of clean fluid through here first. Once again, using the ATF by AMSOIL. And here she goes. Now, by the way, this is going to fill up very, very slowly. So I might showcase for you guys a trick if needed. Okay, my friends, so tip of the day. So you see where it says, do not remove. Yeah, go ahead and remove that. And where it's located is right here. Okay, so right below this line, let me see if I can show you. Right below this line, there's a hole right there with a little plug that says do not remove. Go ahead and remove that. That will actually just suck down the fluid very fast. So go ahead and do that. Do not worry. As long as you put it back, no big deal. Watched a bunch of Ford mechanics do that. Okay, so we have over 4 quarts in here. I think I put a little bit too much in here, but not to worry because the leveling plug will actually fill it out. So we'll do that next. Let's get this out of here without making a mess, hopefully. All right. You've got to be pooping. Alrighty, so do not drop it back down in there. Did it get damaged? Ever so slightly. And of course. Anyway, don't drop it behind there. You'll never get it back, probably. But yeah, put the cat back. I'm putting the phone down. Okay, so apologies about the delay. That was a little bit of a nightmare. While we get our cap back on, the grommet is back. Okay, so obviously do not forget to put back the do not remove cap. And that is located, once again, right down and there. If I can barely see that. Okay, so our cap is now back. It is located right there. Do not remove it, but you pretty much have to. So remove that to fill the fluid back up. And now we can reassemble. But only if you're confident. If you're not confident, all you guys gotta do is simply plug in the mass airflow sensor and put the filter back and then, you know, start the car up and we'll do the next steps. But in case you guys are confident, if you overfilled it like me, probably doesn't matter. So let's get to the next step and put this back together. Okay, so now it is time for reassembly. So just exactly the way you guys put it in here. Obviously it's gonna be a little bit more complicated as well. These things don't generally like to leave their spots. So yeah, here's the cover. Put that on last. We'll get the bottom piece. Here it is. Alrighty, that has to go on that side. So we'll just stick this underneath here. Alright, make sure it goes into the grommet. Let's get underneath these. Okay, so it does go on an angle. At first I wasn't sure, but it definitely does. Okay, so once you guys feel it's kind of locked in, still feels like, you know, it could get loose, but at the same time, it's like pretty much locked in. Locked in. Locked in. So there's lock, lock, lock. All 3 grommets have to be locked. The next thing to do is put that plastic piece on the air intake, and pretty much after that, it's very simple. So this lines up pretty easily, but the hard part is going to be get this back in there. So really quickly, I'm just gonna pop this back in there. Okay, so once those 2 clips are now in the air intake, and next thing to do is just put these little push pins back in. Line it up. Boom, 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 and boom. Okay, so we are now back together. Just making sure this is all tight in here. All right, you guys could definitely give that a quick clean. Not gonna lie, I still gotta do an engine bay cleaning, so I'm just gonna wait. All right, that's back in. Push that back down, and we're good. And that's pretty much it. So let's just get back the easy part, essentially, which is just going to be the top. So we got to put this back in. Actually, I'm going to give this a quick wipe down. 1 second. Okay, so next thing to do is now put the filter back in. I gave this a quick blowout, but definitely going to need a clean. You guys can definitely tell where the air actually comes in fully, which is actually the bottom, which is weird. Hopefully I can swap this around properly. Okay, let's pop this back in. And this just, let's get these out of the way. This just sits in here. Now we got a good seal, and now we can put the top back on, which is definitely going to require 2 hands. So same procedure, that's already loose. That end goes into there, and it just clips down. Simple as that. Okay, so we are back on. Things to check are going to be right there. So that clip, oops, it'll focus. That clip right there and that clip have to be in there first. So put those in there first, and the next thing to do would be to go like this. Gotta get my finger down in there. Okay. One right there. The next one right there. Okay. Next thing to do is tighten this up. By the way, you'll know if this is actually in by this right here. There's actually a tab attached to the intake right here that will go directly into this tab right here. So make sure that's lined up and it should be good. And you guys can tell we're tight, so let's just tighten this up. Okay, so once that is now tight, don't forget to put back in probably your mass airflow sensor, I would assume. And we'll put this back like so, and down here goes in. All right, okay, so that one goes in there, that one goes right there. There, done, boom. Okay, and we are all done. Just give it a good check. Didn't squish any cords, I don't think. Give it a good look down. A good shake. Tight. Okay, and we are all done. So that's the fill. Now it is time to get to taking the wheel off and leveling the fluid out. Okay, so the next thing to do is put the vehicle on the ground, tidy up the engine bay if you're confident with your fluid levels, and now we can start it and put it through the gears really quick before we level it off. This just basically makes sure that all the fluid is getting to every gear efficiently. All right, so obviously foot on the brake. We will now put it through every single gear. So reverse. Let it sit there for a minute. Neutral. Let it sit there for a minute. Drive. Once again, let it sit there for a minute. Neutral. Reverse. Park. And that should be sufficient. Okay. So let's just let it run for a minute and we can turn it off. Okay, so once the fluid is now through the gears, we can now measure for our leveling. So let's see where it is. We are currently sitting at just under 14, so like 14 and a half. Well, let me make sure really quick. So we are sitting at about 14 and 3/8. So remember that, 14 and 3/8. So now it's time to jack up the vehicle, take the wheel off, and of course, let's start leveling. Okay, so now that your wheel is off, we now need to locate our leveling plug, which is nearly impossible to see. All right, let's get in there, and it's right there. So that is a 10mm hex bit. So 10mm hex bit, and we got to get down in there, which is just so hard, man. Everything in this truck is kind of annoying, can't lie. All right, folks, as crazy as it sounds, you kind of have to go behind the splash shield. So just pull it back, and yeah, we are now loose. So we are going to start the car, and we are also going to level the vehicle. So that way, it's perfectly leveled. All the wheels technically will be on the ground, even though the wheel is off. Since we did the measurement, put it back down to that measurement, and start the car. And of course, just take that off, and it should just level out the fluid automatically. Okay, so I right up into it, and I'm slightly underfilled. So if you don't see any fluid come out of there, you're probably underfilled. So what I'm going to do is, I put my transmission fluid into this bottle. This is just a makeshift bottle, you know, McGuire's. But I have a pump on there. You guys can buy this pump on Amazon, so I'm just going to pump it right through the fill hole until it comes out, and then we should be golden. So I'm going to do that really quick. Okay, and we are now golden. We can definitely see that the fluid, if it'll focus, is definitely right there, and we are now good. It's now dribbling out, and we're golden. So made a bit of mess right there, but nothing a little bit of brake clean can't clean up. Alrighty, and we are now done. Just gotta give this a pretty deep clean because I did not realize it popped out of there. Well, okay, so now it's time to put the wheel back on, which we just did, and now we can torque them down to 148 pounds. Okay, so the vehicle's all torqued up, everything's buttoned up, engine bay, wheels are torques. We can actually put this back down and we are done.